At work, Ann felt the weight of 1,000 eyes. Whispers followed him down the hallway like a shadow he couldn't shake. Did you see his presentation? So underwhelming. The voices, real or imagined, started to merge into one loud chorus of judgment. Ann began to question everything, his skills, his worth, his very presence in the company. He'd scroll through his social media feed, and it felt like an extension of the office. People he barely knew were posting their polished lives, their promotions, their perfect vacations. It was a digital tribunal, and he was perpetually on trial, always found wanting. Then there was Min. Min, the office golden boy, whose LinkedIn profile was a blinding collection of achievements and endorsements. Every post was another success story, another project flawlessly executed. Seeing it made Ann feel small, like a background character in someone else's epic. He felt his contributions were invisible, his efforts pointless. The constant comparison was a slow poison seeping into his confidence until he felt completely unnecessary. One day he noticed something odd about his friend Lan. She was never on social media. When he asked her why, she just shrugged and said, "I don't exist there." It sounded so simple, yet so revolutionary. That night, Ann stared at his own profile, a carefully curated gallery of a life he wasn't sure he was even living. With a deep breath and a trembling finger, he clicked deactivate. A strange emptiness followed. The digital noise was gone, but the silence was deafening. It cut off one source of judgment, but it seemed to grow louder elsewhere. At home, the comparisons didn't stop. They just changed their form. At family dinners, he was constantly measured against the mythical other people's children. You know, your cousin just bought a house. Why can't you be more like him? Ann learned to stay silent, to nod and offer a weak smile, retreating into himself. His own dreams and struggles felt invalidated, too insignificant to share. He became a ghost at his own family table. One afternoon, sitting in a park, an old man who often sat on the same bench watched him for a long time. The man's eyes were kind but piercing. Finally he spoke, his voice raspy with age. "Young man," he said, "who are you living for?" The question hung in the air, simple and yet impossible to answer. Ann had no reply. He realized he didn't know. He had spent so much of his life trying to be the person his boss wanted, the son his parents expected, the friend his peers would admire. He was an actor playing 100 different roles, but he had forgotten who he was when the curtain fell. He had tried to please everyone. He'd worked late to impress his manager, agreed with opinions he didn't share to fit in, and molded his personality to match whoever he was with. And he had failed. Spectacularly. Pleasing everyone meant pleasing no one, least of all himself. The effort left him utterly exhausted, a hollowed-out version of a person running on fumes. He was tired of the performance, tired of the constant draining effort of being someone else. He remembered an incident with Lan. She had posted a set of photos from her hiking trip. They were raw, unfiltered. Her face was sweaty, her hair was a mess, but her smile was genuine. The comments were brutal. "You should use a filter, not a good look." Lan read them, shrugged, and left the photos exactly as they were. Ann couldn't understand it. "Aren't you bothered?" he asked her. "Why would you leave them up?" Our conversation quickly escalated into an argument. He pressed her, trying to understand her indifference to the criticism. Finally, Lan stopped and looked him straight in the eye. "'Cause they're my memories, not theirs," she said quietly. "You know what your problem is, Ann? You're not afraid of what they say? You're terrified of being disliked." The words hit him like a physical blow. She was right. His entire life was a desperate attempt to be liked, to be approved of, to be validated by others. The fear of their disapproval was a cage he had built around himself. The next day there was a tense project meeting. The team was about to approve a strategy and knew was flawed. In the past, he would have stayed silent, nodding along with the consensus to avoid conflict. But Lan's words echoed in his mind. He felt a knot of anxiety in his stomach, but he cleared his throat. "I have some concerns," he began. For the first time, he pushed back, laying out his reasoning calmly and logically. The room went stiff. His manager looked surprised. Min, the architect of the plan, looked personally offended, his expression shifting from confidence to disappointment. Walking out of that meeting, Ann's hands were shaking. part of him was screaming, convinced he had just committed career suicide. He had broken the unspoken rule. Don't make waves. He felt the sting of Min's disapproval. But underneath the fear, something else was stirring. A feeling he hadn't felt in a long, long time. He felt real. He had spoken his truth, not for approval, but because it was his. The anxiety was there, but it was accompanied by a flicker of self-respect. That evening, he went home and sat in the silence of his apartment. There was no urge to check for notifications, no need to seek validation. He didn't need anyone to understand or approve of what he'd done. He just needed to sit with himself. He sat there alone on his couch. He wasn't happy, not exactly. But he wasn't afraid either. For the first time, he felt a sense of autonomy, a quiet ownership of his own life. He realized the gazes of others will never disappear. The world will always have an opinion. You can't erase the judgment, the comparisons, the whispers, like the wind. You can't stop the wind, but you can choose not to be a leaf, tossed about by every gust. You can learn to be a stone, grounded in your own truth. You can't control how others see you. You can only control how you see yourself. And in that acceptance, in that quiet act of choosing yourself, you find your freedom. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that explores the journey of self-discovery.